Welcome back. It's still this Wednesday's edition of Newdawn on OGTV with Charity James and Hakeem Akitunde. Of course, it's time for us to go into the discussion segment of the program, and we're starting with this first one. Very, very important, very, very germane. We are looking at the prospects of entrepreneurs in Africa's biggest economy. Well, if you are still wondering which economy we are referring to as the Africa's biggest economy, it is Nigeria. Yes, Nigeria, because I can feel some people shaking their heads. It's not by our own making, but let me just tell you that in Bloomberg's recent Africa's economic ratings, Nigeria ranks #1 in Africa and 28th in the world. 28th in the world. Some people will say that's quite amazing. Of course, the economic growth sees Nigeria overtake the likes of South Africa, second in Africa, Egypt third, Algeria fourth, and Morocco fifth. So, why is this so? Nigeria's economic growth, if you must know, beat forecasts in the fourth quarter, helping its economy to expand the most in 4 years. In 2019, and oil output increased, and the central bank took steps to boost credit growth. So we are looking at this, and we are looking at the impact on entrepreneurs, the impact on this high rating, so to say, on the population, on the populace in Nigeria and business activities generally in Nigeria. And I'm glad that we have two wonderful gentlemen in the studio. First, we have Mr. Ayobami Abdulganiu Biobaku, popularly known as Ayo Biobaku. Mr. Ayo Biobaku was a banker, now a financial consultant, a prominent businessman sitting atop 6 companies, and a founding member of Egba Economic Summit, who has served in various capacities, including being the chairman of the Summit's board of directors. Mr. Ayo Biobaku, you're welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, viewers.
And of course, we also have another wonderful personality when it comes to the business world, a member of Abelsima, the CEO, Global Coats, Mr. Ibrahim Bada. Mr. Ibrahim Bada, you're also welcome to the program.
Thank you.
You're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Good morning.
We'll put some questions forward to you, and we know that our viewers will listen to you as you've given your opinion. Firstly, we want to look at the relationship between entrepreneurship and economic growth. Oftentimes we talk about entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship. What is the relationship with entrepreneurs and economic growth? Mr. Ayo Biobaku.
Well, entrepreneurs are largely business owners, employers, and producers of goods and services. So, and these goods and services are what drives the economy. And when you talk in terms of economic size of a country, we're talking of gross domestic product, which comprises of the products being produced for sales and the services within the economy. So it's the aggregate of all that determine the size of the economy. So that's just a simple relationship between the size of the economy and entrepreneurs. So from goods produced, both natural resources, manufactured goods, and services in banking, communication, etc., and what you guys are doing. So those are services.
So Alhaji Ibrahim Bada, do you have any contrary opinion to what he has just said? What is the relationship?
Our addition.
Our addition. Okay.
Mr. Ibrahim Bada.
Mr. Ibrahim Bada.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I think entrepreneurs, they are people that takes advantage of the environment. They take advantage of the opportunities provided by the situations around. And an entrepreneur is somebody that takes a deliberate attempt in making advantage of the situation and making it to profit him. Now, what I mean is, Nigeria is talking about the benefits of an entrepreneur in a system like this, in a growing economy. I'll give you a practical example. One, if you are going towards interchange, in the last 5 years, interchange is almost everywhere. You see it in a very dark point. In the last 5 years, things started coming up. And you see people going there to form so many things. It became a business hub. And so you see, when you are going now, you see transportation, people are there, people that are running buses from Abeokuta to, from there to Lagos, from there to Abeokuta and several other places. So it's an avenue. So when you see growth in the economy, when something is growing and blossoming, so it creates opportunities for people around, and it creates more money and more business for people.
Okay, Mr. Yoviwaku, let's look at the current rating by Bloomberg. And of course, Nigeria, the largest economy on the continent of Africa, 28th in the world. Entrepreneurs grow to become businessmen. You are a businessman. Looking at this rating, how have you felt doing business in this economy? I mean, to justify the rating of Bloomberg.
Well, I feel good. There is differences between the nominal GDP in terms of the size, the amount traded, etc., and the real growth by human indices, as in the per capita income, disposable income of individuals. So, like former President Olusegun Obasanjo always preferred to measure the real growth in terms of how it affects average citizens. Disposable income, quality of life. As a businessman, I see very great opportunities. I don't see the downside of it, because as a businessman, it's what you buy that you sell. The environmental factors and opportunities are huge, and the system is dynamic. So you see some contraction in some area of the economy and some opportunities in some other areas. So for some of us, people will say generally the economy is tight because they are not feeling the real impact on the standard of living. Yeah. But at the same time, there are opportunity for you to expand your capacity, your efficiency, take advantage of the opportunity. If one area is tight, the economy is opening up in other areas. If you look at the composition now, you can see that the composition of services in our GDP has increased tremendously. There is what we call fast-moving consumer goods that has to do with everyday living. Those ones are not going anywhere. Maybe some luxury items will suffer. When you look at, for instance, in luxury cars, the duty, etc., on them, which has increased to about 100, I think it's about 115 or 25% on brand new cars and all that. Of course, people in that industry will tend to shrink in terms of the volume of sales. Okay, but you can see increase in the number of fairly used, popularly called tokumbos on the streets. So as one side is tightening, there is another, there is always this opening on the flip side. So when you look at the environmental factor as a businessman and you understand the critical factors that contribute to success of businesses, then you are able to look, the population is increasing every day, and people will go to school, they will eat, they will feed, they will wash, they will do this and all that. Those are the areas that they will keep, the opportunity will keep growing. The public schools are not doing well, so the private schools will be doing well. Same thing goes for the hospitals and all that. That accounts for why some of our professionals abroad in areas of medicals and all that are returning home. So there is always opportunity, and I don't believe the space is closing. The opportunity is growing for us to do better, render better services, quality products. As if you go on the shelves now, you see mostly locally manufactured cereal, etc., as against the imported one. You see more in terms of cosmetic soaps versus what we used to have as imported one. You see people wearing more of Ankara and this native dress as against shirts and all that. Granted, the fabric are still coming from abroad, but it's a question of time. When you look at what is happening around a bar sector, etc., then when you look at properties, as properties are going up in Lagos, factories are moving out of Lagos and moving down to places like Gulf State, etc. Reason, once they offload their properties, the churches are expanding, taking them, they take huge money, then they'll be able to buy land at cheaper rate outside Lagos, buy more modern equipment, increase the efficiency of production, etc. So the opportunities abound.
Mr. Bada, what has been the contribution of the Nigerian Chamber of Commerce, Mines and Industries to this growth in terms of, because you look at the Africa's largest economy, Nigeria, and compare, let's even compare the country with the countries that are in second, third position. We know that electricity is not stable here. We know that some social amenities that entrepreneurs need to thrive are not too okay here, even though we are not be staying in Algeria, Egypt, or Morocco, but it's a global village. We know that internet service is stable, electricity is stable in most of these countries. So, what ingenuity has entrepreneurs brought in to actually contribute to making this economy to be rated the highest in Africa, despite these challenges, especially from the side of Nasima?
All right. Now, in the last 5 years, Nasima is the umbrella body of the Chamber of Commerce in all the cities. Now, both Nasima, in conjunction with all the city chambers, they've been able to arrange so many programs. They've been able to do so many things for people that are in production, for instance. To take us to several places on trade fairs, they organize shows, they organize symposium programs from time to time. They help members in assessing finances. Most of the government agencies, the available resources where people can tap resources and they can make, they can finance, they can assess finances for their business. Sorry, they hold all those areas for their members. And I think in the last maybe 2-3 years, they've been having a link with international organizations. We were in Israel, for instance, sometimes last year. We went on an agricultural excursion together with the Israeli government, and they exposed us to so many modern technology in agriculture. We just came back from the United States. We were in the World Agricultural Organization, World Agri Expo. We were exposed to several equipment, several modern technology of farming, both arable farming and animal husbandry. So we were given, every day they are organizing things. They are bringing in people from IITA to come and do symposium with us. We have programs with GIZ. There are several programs everywhere. And I think almost every week there are programs either at the national body or at the state level. So all these are to stimulate members and to help them to grow their business, to grow in line with the economy of Nigeria.
Okay, Mr. Bada, we'll still stay with you. You were talking about Nasima and the activities outside the country. That is, you are an organized organization, let me put it that way, and you run your things the way you think it should be run. What about the local entrepreneurs? What is their place in growing this economy?
Now, look at the locals. Now, I will tell you, I think sometime last year, the Indian people, the government of India, they give us some facilities. for people to visit India without payment. They were responsible for the hotel, they were responsible for the flight ticket, for the everything. And we have people from the chamber that assess that opportunity. Now, the CBN has programs, has financial programs, different banks. And at the Nasima level, at the city chamber levels, they help people. You see, the problem is we have both programs for our members and even the outsiders. When we have programs, we announce that program and we allow anybody that feel like coming in. It's an open gate. We give them free access to any of our programs. And when we do programs, we allow people to visit us. But unfortunately, it's only people that knows about what we do that can access what we are doing. But we also do trade fairs. Of course, it's been long. You understand, because of the nature of the economy and what is happening in Nigeria now. But I'm sure in the next few months, we are planning to start the trade fair again. We are going to have trade fair where people can come to display their wares, and they can be exposed to international traders and access to international links. All these are part of what Abe Osema do to stimulate the local economy.
Mr. Biobaku, looking at the practice of entrepreneurs in Nigeria, we are the Africa's biggest economy. And looking at our practice, we know that there are some factors that are limiting the growth of economy. And looking at the other side too, they are saying we are the largest economy in Africa. Do you think there are some principles or practice that is limiting us from growing out of the bounds and attaining our position in the world? Let's leave Africa now. We are one of the best in Africa. Let's look at the world. Can we look at the limits? Can we break the limits to go outside our boundaries?
Well, there is no situation without its own limitations. We have our own peculiar limits. And everything is relative. If you talk in terms of just the nominal size of the economy, we can say we have a very good position in relative terms. But when you look at in terms of the quality of life, then we can say it's like a case of, let's say, a family. You have a case of two families. Both of them, let me say, earning the same income, and one has a size of about 10, while the other has a size of 4. So whatever is available to 4 people to share, the disposable income and the quality of life, and have the same thing given to 4, family of 4, you'll see differences in all that. And in terms of, there are a lot of opportunities in Nigeria as far as I'm concerned. We have our peculiar challenges, part of which is being corruption, and then people's apathy towards governance and all that, and people's attitude about, it's just about me. Things that we were taught when we were in school about the rain factor of whatever you do or you fail to do, or what government does or fail to do, or what your neighbor does or fail to do. We tend to forget that when it rains, the effect affects everybody within the vicinity. So then our value system as well, because the biggest challenges to entrepreneurs are the value system, staff. And for me, the staff thing is one, according to my friend, Dr. Habib, and I agree, you have to hire right in the first instance. Then it's one thing for you to hire right, train right, and for you to be able to treat them as your best asset, means of production. Because no matter the amount of money you put in, no matter how qualitative or beautiful your equipment is, and all that, if your staff are not handled with human dignity and respect that they deserve, you are not going to get the best out of them. So now the education system needs to improve, and that one is the responsibility of all of us, not just the government. Wherever we can support, we do that. We do that, and then the infrastructure is improving rapidly. All of us can feel it. From the era of the telephoning, look at the way the roads are being constructed and all that. We may not be there, Rome was not built in a day, and given the amount we have and the size of the roads they need to do, the size of this and all that, and you discount for the corruption and the leakages. So I believe we're moving gradually, and if we can also increase, which I believe is what government has been doing for the past 20 years, to diversify the economy to make sure we move away and go into actual production and reduce our level of import. Although the report coming out in the last quarter or the last 1 year has not been good, where our import far exceed our export. And another one we're saying is we still rely largely on the petroleum industry, and looking at what the coronavirus and all that is happening now, I think the Brent is around $30-something now against the 60-something we projected. So it goes to follow that the income available to various arms of government, invariably the people will crash maybe close to about 40% if it persists like that. And then most likely foreign exchange will go up, and we are an import-dependent economy. So, and if you have substantial increase in the cost of bringing in the goods, so will be the cost of buying them by the consumers, and invariably disposable income, then real quality of life and all that. So those, if you can diversify the economy, go back some of the basics that we used to have, the kind of training we have when we have in primary school, the kind of education we had that lets you know whatever you have to look after your neighbor, because if you don't, whatever happens to your neighbor is coming to before the passion, the local production is very important. All the equipment are being brought in, we can't even maintain anything. We're putting all these light rails and all that in there. The Chinese, they come here, they take the contract, they bring all the equipment, they bring the human resources that will develop them and all that. So invariably, all the money we're talking about that we say we generate, they fly out again. So we don't really have retained income. Most of the money ended up going back to where they come from. And then incidences of taxes need to be dealt with, so that look at American economy. 2/3 of our American economy, which is called the largest economy in the whole world, is accounted for by internal consumption. Exchange of goods and services within the system. That's what accounted for 2/3 of American GDP. It's not like they have fantastic export road. Their export, in terms of export, the the services accounted for the largest portion of American export, not physical production. Then in terms of GDP, our own is by the oil that we export, which we don't have control over the prices, because we're not now, whatever Saudi Arabia decide influence the market. But that is what influenced the size of our GDP we're talking about. We don't have control over it. But we can change it by making more disposable income available for people. Create some of the goods internally. Then we can trade among ourselves as much as possible, so that no matter what happens, we have something circulating within in terms of services and all that.
Mr. Bada, how do you react to this, that maybe this ratings through researches and through indices propounded by those who go into researches are cosmetics after all? Or how do you want to describe the largest economy that is not reflecting on the common man of that country?
Well, I think going by our population, we are almost 200 million. And for you to have a market of about 200 million, to have a market that has about 200 million people, I think it's a very large market. Thinking about that. Now, he was talking and he's saying, if you go down and we can think inward more, I think we will justify the rating. I was traveling of recent, and somebody brought dry seasoned fish for me. And I ate that fish. I finished both the bone. These are local products. Now, somebody could have given me a flour or a chin-chin or something made half imported and half local. But this is something that is completely made in Nigeria for us to consume. Now, if you look at sugar, for instance, we import a lot of sugar into this country. But of course, we could make honey, and it will be 100% locally made here, made for Nigerian people, for 200 million people. Instead of importing sugar for 200 million people and paying millions of dollars for importation. If you look at what is happening in the rice, rice production, for instance, I was in a farm somewhere in Nasarawa State. They have about 67 kilometer by 67 kilometer rice farm. It's owned by Olam. And they have 2 aircraft. It's a local farm in Nigeria. And if you look at their turnout, their output, it's so large. Now, with the production of rice in Nigeria, we have been able to save a lot of money. And I felt, individually, as a people of this country, we should encourage ourselves. He was talking about our training. The kind of training we had when we were young is to use our hand to do something. And that's why we are here today. But the training we are giving these children, this generation that is following us, is that they have to depend on somebody else. Now, if you study agriculture, you don't need to finish and start looking for a job. You can create something. You don't even need to have a fish pond before you can process fish. You can go into drying of fish. You can go to the market and buy, or go to somebody that has pond and buy from that person and dry and produce and pack and sell. For you to make honey, I don't think it's a big deal. Now, but the problem we have is about thinking. And so when you are talking about entrepreneurship, I think we should introduce it into our higher educational curriculum. Learning, trying to make people to understand that you don't just go to school and start looking for a job. I started business when I was in the university. I started making big money right from the school. And it was just a transition for me, moving out of the school to enter into what I've been doing. And I've been doing this for years. And I didn't even take any loan. I've never taken any loan from anywhere. I've just grown myself from a point to this point. So, and it's a deliberate thing. I'm focused, I'm making sure that within the limit of what I have, I am using all that I have to move to the next stage. So I want to feel that if our people are properly trained and we have correct orientation to understand that you can actually use your hand to create something for yourself. And it's better for you to be on your own than even to be looking for job somewhere else. So I think if we can maximize the opportunity that we have now, that's the opportunity of having about 200 million people. Just think about anything. You have your market. I was in Israel, and I remember that the Israeli government was trying to welcome us. And they told us their population is about, I think, about 8 or 9 million. And they from their country, they were telling us what they export, how they feed the whole world in terms of agriculture, what they do in technology and every other thing. And you are looking at 8 million people and you are saying, oh my God. We were visited several of their farms. We visited their research institute. And they told us, Nigeria has over 200 million people. You have fertile lands everywhere. We don't have fertile land. We saw their lands. It's just like you are planting on marble. And yet, things are growing. They are developing it. So I think it's time for us to look inward as a nation. and look at what can we do, what can we produce, what can we do by. So it's not about what can the government do for us. And I think I'm excited about this government in Ogun State. The way I'm seeing the governor going, the way he's stimulating the states. Now, because I followed them on some of the social media. Now, the way they are going on agriculture, they are planning to have somewhere around, I don't know whether it's Peru or something. They are planning to have an agricultural. I think ADB promised to build one airport or something around there, cargo airport. Now, when you look at, let me just go back a little. Sorry, I was in America, the US, World Agriculture Expo, and we are seeing the greenhouses. I was wondering, we have this in Nigeria. Why are they not working? Now it comes back to the issue of light, the power. You need to regulate the temperature of the greenhouse. But now they are planning something around a hub, like something like an agricultural hub. You have the airport is there, the cargo is there. Go to anywhere in the world, you will see that most of the food Nigerians abroad eat, they import them from either Ghana or from other countries. Now, because our agricultural products are not healthy. Now, when there's a hub, it creates opportunity for people. But it only creates opportunity for people if we understand what the government is doing. Do you understand? Or yes, you will just see the Indians coming to come and take over again. You will see the foreigners coming to come and take advantage of, because they're already taking advantage of us. They will just come in and take the advantage of the situation on the ground. So we ourselves need to be properly reorientated. We need to be envisioned. And I think the best way to do that is to go back to our curriculum right from the secondary school and introduce entrepreneurship, so that people will know that you are expected to start something in your life. Your life is not about just going to school and going to serve somebody. It's about you going to school to make something better out of your life.
Okay, Mr. Abibaku, looking at Nigeria being described as the largest economy, I think also shows that it has a large chunk of opportunities to be exploited, and of course by entrepreneurs and businessmen. That does not mean that there won't be challenges in that country described as the biggest economy. I mean, it only goes to show that, just like you said, foreigners too can just tap into this routine. Let's go to Nigeria, we'll make it there. What can we invest in? What can we do? So, looking at these challenges, how do you entrepreneurs and businessmen survive these challenges in your various businesses? Because you've once told me that serious businessmen survive in a challenging economy or a challenging environment. So, how do they do it?
Well, businessmen will always survive because businessmen are opportunity seekers. So you look for opportunity and you capitalize on it. Survival in business is about being able to provide for goods and services in need. So you don't just go into business because you have money. You must have the knowledge of the business you want to do, about the business, thorough knowledge. You must understand the environmental factors that will influence the survival or otherwise of the business. Are the customers there? When I say customers, you can have the 200 million people, but the 200 million are not likely to be your customers in whole. It could be all you need is just about 1,000 or 500,000 or thereabouts. So then you can say, okay, this is where my expertise is, and this is where I want to concentrate because this is the lifestyle I want to live. Or you can do what Dangote called kobo business. The kobo business people are usually the wealthiest people in the world because they have something for everybody. They are not looking for one transaction to solve all their problems, but they are looking for multiple of transactions that's like a drop, little here and there. Jakonde sells sugars, everybody takes rice, you take salt, you are there. It's going to a refinery, every vehicle must move. Okay? Cement, etc. Homes will be there. The richest man in the world today is Amazon. He sells everything by sitting on a computer and then start constructing warehouses. Then his market is not limited to the 200 and something million Americans, but he made the platform available to billions of people all over the world. So first, you have to know where's your expertise, where's your interest. The people we're talking about now, unlike youth of today that they want to make money overnight, they want businesses that will buy them a Lexus, a Benz, within a few months and all that. Dangote started business with a loan from his uncle in 1975, for crying out loud, that's $500,000. Then, Bezos, the man that owns Amazon, is an IT person, so he uses IT technology, knowledge, to create a platform. Bill Gates uses technology, so it's like it's what you know that will now turn into money, into goods and services that can earn you money. But now you must understand the business, you must look at the environmental factor, then the government policy factor too needs to be considered. When we talk in terms of economic growth, we don't see real growth, because even when the numbers of the money available to government is influenced by the selling prices of oil largely, but the population they need to cater for is increasing at a rate higher than that money is increasing. You have 10 naira available for 10 people today. Tomorrow you now have 12 naira available for 13 or 14. And you say that, so naturally their quality of life is decreasing. So the way I say it, entrepreneurs who understand the business and is ready to play by the rules, have the right values, the right attitude, positive attitude. You don't get depressed by lack of electricity. You don't get discouraged because the road is bad. And you are just ready to get up, move, and get it done and deliver. In our homes, we provide the generators. You put everything to your cost of production or services. Telephones are there, all sorts of things. So the government or whoever you think, you don't rely on anybody, just to make sure this is what I want to do, and all this thing is what you buy, you sell, end of story. But make sure you go the right way to do it and you'll be fine. So for me, there is always opportunity within any system. And the one that are most profitable are the crisis-ridden economy.
So it's about doggedness, it's about ingenuity.
It's the crisis-ridden economy, because even control, regulations and all that are always very tough. But when you look very well, and it's like you see it coming, you don't wait until you get crushed, you quickly adjust, be proactive, then you'll be ahead. You can have a little bit of downtime, because life is not like this. It's like a cycle. So the only thing, you make sure as you're going down your bend, when you go up, you don't come back as low as you were before you take off and all that. And you keep moving. But when you say your income is going up, and you're piling expenditure and all that far above what you're generating and all that, and you are not providing for tomorrow, no savings, no money for contingencies, emergencies, and all that, when the opportunity comes, you will not be there. Now that things are happening now, we knew most likely dollar will come down. You see some smart business people are like, okay, what do I have? Let me go and let me have some naira now. Whether you're borrowing the naira or you're offloading some assets and all that, then you wait. You foresee it coming. At times you lose, but minimize your losses. But the point is, if out of fear of failure, you do not attempt to dive, you will never move. So because behind that fear, it's your opportunity and growth. But if you let the fear override your courage, your capacity to say, okay, this is where I want to be. But you must be able to take that dive. You must be able to take that risk for you to be able to reap. And while you're trying to look for opportunity to reap, mind you, there is always opportunity to lose more. Minimize the possibility.
Mr. Pada, we'll be coming back to you. You are in the sector that accommodates some manufacturers, and we know that some policies in Nigeria does not, in quotes, encourages manufacturers. So what are you doing in your association to look at this local content production so that the real growth will come into the nation?
Well, at the city chamber, there's okay. Let me just maybe I should first say this: that we have a hub, something like an industrial hub, where people can take land together. We're like a society. Now we have most things. We provide most things in common. The generating set is somewhere around Onijogojogo. The land is provided by the federal government, and we encourage as much people that want to produce to come around the hub, so that we can always gather and support ourselves in terms of provision of electricity, provision of generating set, and several other things. But someone like me, I'm not even there. I'm not in the hub. My factory is completely outside the hub. But you discover that each time you have challenges or you have problems, there is the chambers arranges and organizes and supports. For instance, the VAT has just been increased to 7.5 from 5%. Now there are several seminars going on around. The Nigerian-American Chambers of Commerce and Industry, they are organizing one. So the chambers they will beam it to us. They will give us the opportunity of going out to attend such meetings, so that can help us. The Nigerian German Chambers of Commerce and Industry, they are organizing another one. I think it's on the 26 or something in Lagos. They link us to all these points so that we can have complete understanding of the change in the system of government and the implication on our businesses and what to do. And so and you know, as an association, that's the only thing they can do. They can only give us the basis. And when there's need for them to rise on our behalf, for instance, the Nigeria Export and Promotion Council, and there are several agencies that ordinarily as an individual you may not be aware. So they know, they have the link, and so when you run to them, they give you the assets. For instance, if you produce in Nigeria and you want to carry your products to the West African countries, you access the city chamber and they will link you to the appropriate unit of government that aids entrepreneurs in spreading to the other African countries. So these are things that Abiosema do, and I think it's there for anybody to access. Even if you are not a member and you approach them, I think they will link you up.
Are there effects on the economy?
Well, of course, because if you carry your product from Nigeria and you take it to Republic of Benin to sell, you are bringing in dollars. It's foreign exchange you are earning, and that gives you more money than what you will sell in Nigeria. And you are even improving that. You are improving the economy of Nigeria. It's the diversification of the economy.
Okay. Mr. Biobako, looking at government policy, we are still looking at that. Do you think some policies should be changed so that this sector we're talking about can thrive the more? Do you think the policies are good? If they are not good, can we change it? Is the government ready to change it, in your own opinion?
Well, the way I see government policies is it's always very easy for people outside to make comments and criticize policies. But I believe the people who formulate policies does it or put forward what they believe is in the best interest of the country. Because they have access to a whole lot of information that we do not have access to. There are some, there are some specifics as in the tax, multiple layers of taxes. We've been talking about that and all that. Then activities of government agencies, because most of the agencies are set up as income generating agencies rather than regulatory agencies. Okay, so if they move away from just going about looking for how to generate money and just tax people from it. Okay, for instance, we have what they call industrial training fund. Which industry benefit from it? They take a percentage of your turnover every year. They come there ready to shut you down and all that. Even though you train your staff, but you say this percentage of the money you train your staff, etc., etc. So then you have the educational trust fund or whatever, which is they take a percentage of the gross turnover of this, which we pay annually. But look at where the education is. The amount being generated, can we see it reflecting in the amount being budgeted for education? No. The answer is no. So there are some areas of wastages, exploitations that obviously need to be taken care of as far as, because when I look at the amount that, look at the banks for instance, when you put the amount they pay as education trust or whatever, that percentage they pay annually, is in excess of maybe about 40-something billion. What's the total budget for education in a year? So those are the numbers they need to look at, but generally we shouldn't be out there blaming government for everything. We should blame ourselves more. And I'll cite an example. An Indian man came to see me. We're trying to set up a business and said, this is a laudable idea, but I have an advice for you. That most Nigerian businessmen he knows, the moment they start making money, then they will go and buy a house in the US, buy a house in London, big massive house in Nigeria and all that. They forget that the business that is giving them money is like a baby, like a mother that has a baby and decide to just entrust the growth of the baby in the child of a nanny or whatever without paying attention. So we too need to change our attitude. So it's not just about government. There are some things I think I've done that if I look back, I would have done differently. And if I need to mentor my child or somebody, I will say, this area are likely pitfall that you may not like tomorrow when you look back. Whether you're going to accept it or not is your decision as an adult. So everything is, there are some government policies that need to be reviewed, but our attitude may not make that one happen. It will take a long time. But we can't blame government for everything. We should blame ourselves, because within the limitations of what we consider to be the shortcomings in the policy, there is always a way around for you to make good of your business. So look at if you look at the creation, when you look at Agbara now, Agbara has been there for years. Okay, I just want to speak to what you said ago. Now, when you look at the infrastructure in Agbara, with all the factories in there, I mean, your mind will bleed. And so this is where this money is coming from. Now, focus shifted to Flower Gate around this axis and all that. It's very good. Once that Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is completed, there will be a lot of opportunities shifting those. But I hope that will not lead to further neglect of Agbara. And when you look at the land size we have in there, etc., we will not be able to tap all the opportunities, the minerals, and all that are going on in there. So, of course, the Indians, the Chinese, they have funding advantage largely. Because they take money from their company at 3% at times at negative interest rate, and come and play with we that are taking money at around 30% in here. So it's a different ballgame. Then they come in here, they don't have real commitment. They don't have patriotism. So they are ready to bribe and buy their way. So without any feelings that the system is being destroyed. You may have a conscience, this is my country, I don't want to spend my money, I shouldn't encourage all these things, this thing should flow normally and all that. They don't have such feelings and all that. So the same goes for dealing with regulatory agencies. Those are the practical things we've seen where we try to compete with them. And for instance, we have some goods where we have franchise, but the moment the government give the business to them, they even give them the opportunity to bring all the goods in directly themselves. So they would now, I have a particular one that came back to me and said, Mr. Bibaku, you know what, the project is big, government has given us, we're bringing everything from China, blah, blah, blah. So what we can do is to give you 3% out of the contract. But you see, that your contract is whatever you sell here comes to this country, you determine the prices. And you don't find out the prices agree with government is about 3 times the price we are selling in the open market. And the manufacturer is saying it's giving you 3%, meanwhile already you are making 40% on your own price. I want to say, well, you know the way it works, all the money is not our own. So, I'm talking from practical experience now. Now, when you look at that, that's another inhibiting factor that makes, but the lesson in it is we must learn to produce here by ourselves. Okay. That's my takeaway from that.
Okay.
So,
all right, Mr. Bada, how often, or is it a practice from government now that they involve stakeholders when trying to formulate these policies? And let's come down to the issue of even budgeting to actually actualize economic growth. Take your body, for example, at Sima, up to Nasima. Do you collaborate? Do you offer advice? Are there opportunities for you to chip in 1 or 2 things when they are formulating these economic policies? What has been your experience?
You know, constitutionally, there are provisions for the private participation in several government decisions, including the boards of organizations and several other things. But you discover that, I don't know, maybe because of the nature of the people, kind of people we are, and maybe because of series of events that has taken place before now, not too many times do the people in government consult directly with the city chambers or the national body of Nasima. Of course, when we have Yalo Dialabalosin as the president, she was actually going almost everywhere, and she was fighting for almost all the issues, all the things that we are supposed to be involved in, including appointment of boards, because it's clearly stipulated in several of those clauses that there must be a representative of the private sector, a representative of several places, and in several things. But you discover that over the years, this has been, I don't know, maybe it's maybe out of maybe because the chamber is not rising to its position, or because the government just decided to sideline the chambers of commerce and industries. So you discover that in the past, apart from maybe the last government, maybe there were a little involvement. I remember when they appointed the board, they were part of the board of Ogun State Polytechnic or something, and some of them. But you discover that we were supposed to be carried along in everything. Even when they were doing the economic summit, there was an economic summit in the town, we were just invited. We were not part of it. So, and I felt that we are the one here. You're having a summit about the people of Ogun State, and I'm bringing in almost every other person from outside the country and outside the world without making enough provision for the locals.
Okay.
And so you understand that for you to stimulate the economy, it's about stimulating the locals. Of course, I understand that we needed them. We need these people to come and invest there. So that, but of course, we have to also look inward and look at how do we bring the locals, how do we elevate them, how do we bring them up? Because that's actually what he was saying, and I think that's the way out of Nigeria, for Nigeria, is for us to have, there's no way an Indian will come and invest here, or somebody else will come and invest here, and we have the interest of this country. And I think the best thing, the earlier we take over from them, the better for us.
Mr. Biba, could you have anything?
No, let me ask Mr. Oku will talk on that. You add to that, but I want to chip in a question. Of course, let me tell our viewers that we've been talking about prospects of entrepreneurs in Africa's biggest economy. According to Bloomberg, Nigeria is the largest economy in Africa. What has been your experience? And of course, how do you feel about it? My producer will have the number on the screen. We'll take some few calls. Mr. Biwaku, alongside reacting to that, what was the brain behind, of course, the formation of Egba Economic Summit, which you have served in various capacities? And of course, how has that impacted on the economy of Egba land itself, Ogun State, and Nigeria as a whole?
Egba Economic Summit, it's a very huge topic. The rationale behind it, reasoning, the vision, the mission, and objective. But let me just put this: we come together to form Egba Economic Summit to largely, just to borrow from Nigeria Economic Summit Group, to be able to take over from state the organization of the Economic Summit, Investment Summit for the state, to be able to contribute intellectually to policy formulation of the state and implementation, research as to where we're coming from, who we are and where we want to be, and set a target. Like we have an agenda that and define where we want Egba land to be in the year 2030 and all that. So it was like, one, we should work with the government at various capacity, that we should be partners with them and other associations, NASIMA, Manufacturer Association that we reach out to, so that we can come up with a position and say, this is the position, for instance, in agriculture or in education, and this is what we find out, this is where we should be. So whenever government have like a 5-year or whatever plan, and make sure we work with relevant government departments and agencies. I know during the tenure of Governor Ibikunle Amosun, we sat with him. He tried to link us up with about 3 ministries. The part of the challenges was that, it was being looked, it was an Egba agenda. So now we reached out to the other Economic Summit group in Ijebu. We tried to find out the one in Songo, which we couldn't link up with, so that it would be like an Ogun State agenda, even though as the 3 senatorial districts, we still have 3 different units, but we'll come together as a one, get NASIMA, get Manufacturer Association. So we'll now be the one that are actually this annual economic summit for the state, then bring in people. So all the opinions and whatever that comes to will now form the bulk of what will the bulk of government program and agenda for and policies for the state in implementation, so that we will be providing government in the private sector knowledge, use our own resources, your own, my own, we'll pull our resources there to be able to fund research that government may not look into, the ministries may not look into, and things they will ordinarily go and pay for outside, and bring the knowledge to them and say, this is what we have, and not and help them. So that's what it's essentially it's all about. As in the impact on Egba land, I know when we had the first colloquium, as at that time we took a decision that everything we're doing, we have to use the local content. So for the decoration, we use adure and all that, and mat, the any, I don't know what's it called. And for all the snacks we served, we had the, I think, what they call that white one, I forgot. We had the kokoro, egbo, and all that. Kulikuli, those are the kind of things we served, and it's like we don't want any, no, we don't want chicken pie or meat pie and all that. We don't want all that. Then we only had ofada and we had lafu, strictly. I think sometime along the line we lost it, but we're trying to reorganize ourselves. So those are the things that everything we do will be to project our own product locally as against the foreign imposed taste that we've acquired over the time, and that with all its side effects. So that with time, then you can see now that things like amala and ewedu gbegiri is gaining traction at parties and all that, so that we can reduce all that. So that's what the Egba Economic Summit is all about. And I can tell you, we've done very well. We are not exactly where we think we should be, but certainly we're determined, and along the line, we'll certainly be able to take over and start having influence on what government is doing.
All right, let's see if we can, we want to have your contributions, your questions to our guests. Don't forget that we have, okay, we have a call here. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Okay, we lost that. We have Mr. Ibrahim Bada, and of course we have Mr. Ayobi Obaku. We've been looking at prospects of entrepreneurs in Africa's biggest economy. Let's take this call. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Well, it's, I don't know, challenge, network challenge, so to say, but we'll see if we can actually get one or two calls, or we still just go ahead with our questions as we continue to examine this important topic. Let's try, if we are lucky again. We lost that again. I don't know what is wrong with the network. But of course, our two gentlemen, you said what? Our two gentlemen, okay, see. Now, let me, it doesn't really matter how buoyant your economy is. It doesn't really matter. Everybody is feeling it now. What is the implication? Two of you will react to this. What is the implication of the pandemic coronavirus on the economy? Clinically, somebody said, and I said, well, that Nigeria is not doing badly. Clinically, we could be able to manage it. We have been able to manage some in the other, but because it is an international thing, what is likely to be the economic effect? Let's take this call if you're lucky. Hello, good morning. You couldn't. Go ahead. Now, first, Mr.
Unfortunately, I work around Lafarge, and that's the point where coronavirus entered Nigeria. And I think I also do import a lot of things from China. I have things that have been on the way now, that are packed, that are supposed to have arrived in Nigeria since January, and up to now, they're still there at the warehouse. So the implication is that there may be there may be increase in the price of goods and services, because you discover that in the next 1 month, all the several spares and things that consumables from China and from some of the countries where this thing is heavily affecting them, will start having a toll on the economy of the nation.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So for China, several of the things you want to bring in from China now, they are old. And that will mean that there may be shortage of several things in the economy within the system in the next few days. So it's definitely going to create inflation. What do we do, Mr. Ayo? From the government? So, sir, let me just say.
Okay. I thought you were
maybe before Mr. Ayo. Now, I think from the government, they are trying. For instance, in Ewekoro, we have a lot of people that have first contact with the Italian man, and all of them are inside. They have been quarantined now. And everybody's watching everywhere. And I think if the way government is attacking it, it is okay, it will go a long way. Now, but the other part of it is that, look at the economy of almost all the countries. Germany is supposed to have an NSA, there's a trade fair that's supposed to come up in Germany in April. It's been moved now. It's been cancelled. Yeah. There are several things that if we don't get it right, it will be difficult for us to have this kind of meeting. So you may only have a lone program on the television, somebody just talking and talking and talking. Now, last Saturday, I think I was watching a football match inside a empty stadium. So it's only the players that are, and you look at the way they are playing, they can't even touch each other. So that's what we should be, the picture we should be having. And that's why we needed to prepare ourselves very well. Particularly the government needs to put in a lot of measures to make sure that they curtail coronavirus from spreading in Nigeria. I think it's very important because it will definitely bring down the economy.
Well, the coronavirus is having a serious effect even on Nigeria now in two ways. One, we are import-dependent economy. Two, we depend largely on oil. The point is, what's oil being used for? They are largely used for our vehicles, but majorly to power the manufacturing process. So, because the largest manufacturing hub in the whole world is the Asians, South Korea, Japan, China, etc. And Europe, it's Italy and Germany. Every inch of Italy now is practically on lockdown. As of 3 weeks ago, even the cancellation for hotel reservation in Italy amounts to about 5.3 billion euros. So anybody that is bringing things from Italy now is on halt, so that all the factories that are using our oil to produce, same thing in China, in Germany, in Spain is entering the same situation now, which is why the oil will depend on largely has moved from 60 something that is now about 33 or 35, and government had to set up an emergency committee to review even our own budget. So things like the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway or the railway we're looking up to may suffer. There is no money to fund them. So it's home with us already, whether we have the virus in our blood or in our medical system or not. But it's affecting every sphere of our life today and tomorrow and probably years to come. Some companies may go bankrupt for good because they will not be able to service their debt. Workers are being asked to go home or work from home. They will not be able to get paid. And because we don't have the inputs, I look at the pharmaceutical company, the largest portion of our inputs come from China and India. So now there is a problem. Then in terms of shipping cost, I know the cost of shipment in Spain now has moved from $1,630 to about $2,400. Reason being that the ship need to move with limited number of containers, not full. So only the limited number of containers that are going will have to share the cost. And so it is all over the world. Wow. So it's naturally going to affect the cost of goods locally at the end of the day.
Thank you.
It's going to affect things like capacity to pay salaries, what the government are sharing every month, etc. Because the dollar they share, the petrodollar they share every month is gone down and all that. So everybody should warm up and start.
So it's like, as far as the developing one economy, that should be, for those countries that don't have option 2, they will likely to suffer. We just hope that our government has option 2, because this is unexpected, but it's happening, and we have to tug along. Thank you very much. We have to thank you for spending your time with us. We are really benefited from your wealth of experience as successful entrepreneurs and businessmen. Mr. Ibrahim Bada, CEO, Global Coats, member Abelsima. I want to thank you very much for coming. And of course, Mr. Ayo Biobaku, a businessman who sits atop about 6 companies, and of course, one of the brain behind Egba Economic Summit, who has had at various capacities, including being the chairman of the Summit's board of directors. I want to thank you very much for coming, sir.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
Of course, the program continues. We'll be back. We'll just allow our guests to go. Then in a jiffy, we'll be back in the studio.